Hello, guys. Welcome back to days two, three, and four. A roller coaster straight through now till the end of the festival of this preview. We're once again joined by Jack and Tom, and we're going to kick things off straight away by going into the Gallagher Novices Hurdle, officially named the Baring Bingham. It's got so many different names, it's hard to keep up. Ballyburn, the banker of the week, deemed the Irish big banker of the week, currently tops the market at a very warm 4 to 7. He's been very good so far over the course of this season. And Tom, I'll pass to you first. Is Ballyburn going to be the perfect start for the Irish banker of the week and go in on the second day?
I'd like to think that I could find a chink in his armour. I'm going to wait for the actual declarations to come out because several of these, like Captain T, Gidley Park, they could be going to the Albert Bartlett. So I just want to have a look at the declarations and then I'll see if it is that Ballyburn's got the chink in his armour. I must admit, he reminds me of Fahim. Strange as that seems, going up in trip, but Fahim did pretty much everything. 2 mile, 3 mile, then he ended up in what was the Baring Bingham, and then he won that one. So potentially, but he does also remind me a little bit of Imperi Pass last year. So potentially, but I'm going to wait for the declarations.
Okay, and Jack, there's one who's currently at the top of the market. He's not Ballyburn, but it's one that you've spoken about yesterday, and there's one who you are pretty keen on in this. He looks like he will declare for it, and there's one you're keen on.
Yes, indeed. It's Il Atlantique. Now, I said yesterday, for all those who did watch, that the horse might be worth a chance at the Supreme if it was soft enough going. However, the declarations have happened today, and we now know that he's going to be Baring Bingham bound. I think his second to Reading Tommy Wrong reads quite well, especially if Reading Tommy Wrong does indeed go to the Albert Bartlett. Don't know if he'll be going to. Is he in the Baring Bingham, Reading Tommy Wrong?
Yeah, he's currently 12 to 1 for this. Yeah, he is.
12 to 1. I think personally, Reading Tommy Wrong should go for the Baring Bingham. So that does present a little bit of an intrigue, given the fact that he was Il Atlantique was second to him. Obviously, does your Supreme shout Firefox? I mean, if Firefox won on Tuesday, I think the money would come for those two, Il Atlantique and Reading Tommy Wrong. But a couple that Tom said, Captain Teague, he looks Albert Bartlett bound. Gidley Park did win the race at the Cheltenham Festival Trials Day that is usually won by an Albert Bartlett type horse or one that heads there. We're all thinking at Fisher's Cross as well a few years ago with the new one. Handstands won the Sydney Banks. I do feel it was a weaker race on paper, though. Was getting weight off Django Bay. I know you've spoken and said that Harry Cobden's been confirmed as being the jockey keeps the ride. And Slade Steele's the potential for each way, but for me, it is Il Atlantique.
Okay, yeah. Just to confirm that, yeah, Harry Cobden does ride handstands. Ben Paulins confirmed that. Look, I hope Reading Tommy Wrong comes here. I thought he was very gutsy in the Laws of Nace. I thought he finished off his race really well. I'm hoping they stay at this trip. I think he's a very good novice hurdler at this trip at 2.5. And I think if he does declare here, I think he'll go in pretty quickly from 12s into about 6s, I think. I'm pretty sure there'll be money for him. I think the Laws of Nace form will work out pretty well. And especially, as you've rightfully said, if Firefox goes and wins a Supreme, I can see money coming for the pair of them, Il Atlantique and also Reading Tommy Wrong. But he'd be my pick, and I'm hoping that they will declare for this rather than go to the Albert Bartlett at the end of the week. Right, that moves us swiftly on to the Brown Advisory. Factor File again. It looks to be a promising start for Willie Mullins on the second day. Factor File currently 4 to 5. Did effectively gallop all over Gaelic Warrior at Leopardstown last time. Slight concern was his jumping, though. He did jump out to his right on occasions. And is he a sure thing for this in this Brown Advisory?
I don't think he is. I really don't think he is. In fact, I'm going to be quite controversial, and I'm going to turn around and say Factor File shouldn't be running in this race. He should be running in the Turners. If he goes to the Turners, I feel like he wins that. I know the likes of Dan Skelton has been very, very, very highly rating and highly speaking of Grey Dawning, especially that run against Ginny's Destiny at Cheltenham. Would you say they would deserve going for the Turners instead? Potentially. Couple I'm going to mention, American Mike. I mean, this horse, Tom saw him at the sales a few years ago. I know Tom fancied him last year for the Bearing Bingham. It didn't quite work out, but has the penny finally dropped with this horse? Grade 2 win last time out. He's won 2 of his novice chases. He's a massively good looking horse, well being a massive horse. And he deserves his chance in this. Broadway Boy, again, deserves his chance. He beat 3 under through 5. He then won at Ascot when myself and Tom were there. But Broadway Boy flopped at Warwick. There was an excuse due to ulcers. But for me, the one horse I absolutely will be on 100% is Stay Away Faye. I think this horse, Albert Bartlett winner last year, yes, it's a different course compared to last year, but when you chuck this horse into open company on only their, I think it was their 3rd run over fences, and they perform admirably against some quite seasoned rivals, this looks not so much easy. I want to detract away from that, but I think Stay Away Faye is probably the best horse in the race. And hopefully, fingers crossed, they come away and give Paul Nicholls a deserved winner on the week.
Okay, and Tom, just quickly, for people who watched it last year, both Jack and Tom did tip Stay Away Fate at a rather nice price to win the Albert Bartlett. So a big pat on the back for both of you last year, because that was a very, very good shout. And Tom, are you very much in the camp? Are you sticking with Stay Away Fate here? As Jack's rightfully mentioned, the form's in the book, and you could argue he's a very worthy contender to try and take down Fact or File in this race.
Well, firstly, I do think that Stay Away Faye, I absolutely love this horse. I think this lad is Paul Nicholls' next Gold Cup winner.
It's a big shout.
I genuinely do think, because all he does is, like his name, stay. Yes, Maximilian beat him at Doncaster and Aintree last season, but Maximilian prefers a flatter track. It's one reason why he's not turned up this season. I mean, the other one is, admittedly, he's been injured, but Stay Away Faye is all about staying. You give him a trip, he will run that trip, and he will not back down. And his 3rd run in open company was absolutely brilliant. I was really happy with him. I think I'll put him spot on for this race. He's done more than others have done. And also, the lad, absolutely, there's a picture being taken at Exeter of him absolutely launching at the last. He absolutely winged it, and he went on to win. That is a horse that wants to win, has the guts to win, and quite frankly, I think he will win.
It's a bold shout, and it's a race that I will not be having a bet in. I don't think it's just too much of a tight race for me. That moves us now into the Coral Cup, and this is a wide open handicap. This actually looks a really good handicap this year again, and I think looking back next year, I think this race will be one that throws up a couple of really nice types. Again, Willie Mullins tops the market with St. Majest. A certain Langadan's back in this, I think off the same mark in which he won last year. I know he's had his troubles over the winter with ulcers, but has Dan Skelton been doing everything he can to get the mark down? I think he has. And this is quite clearly his Gold Cup. And he won the race last year, as we know. If he wins it again, do we just basically say well done to Dan Skelton for basically working the system, getting his mark down to a competitive mark once again, and just doing something that trainers just tend to do, Jack?
I mean, I do need to worry if you've been reading my notes, because I put same mark as last year as well, and it was exact wording. So have you been looking over my notes? Is there a camera here or something like that? Is there? Have I been absolutely bugged or something? Have I been bugged? Is this poster move away or something? Yes, I'm a Top Gun fan. Yeah, I went to see it. Stuck the poster on.
Great film.
Absolutely great film. But I don't know. I'm just, on the face of it, you could say you were concerned by his run, but is this another plot job? I know there's a certain, I mean, I don't want to say the word tipster. There's a media member currently out in Hong Kong by the name of Jack Dorling who loves this horse. And I feel like he's all over him as well. So it's been noticed. For me, though, he actually carries £4 higher than he did in weight. So even though he's off the same mark, he's running actually with £4 more weight, and that could tell. Ballyadam. Now, this horse is ultra consistent in the county handicap hurdle, in coming 5th in the last 2 renewals. So does this look a little bit like we've tried the county hurdle, we might as well go for the Coral Cup now and see if he can get a fourth? The two that I'm looking at, though, one of them is what Tom will talk about in a little bit, but it's actually Lucky Place. Needs a couple to come out, but this could be quite shrewd. They've not really done themselves any disgrace. They're only half a length around Gidley Park. So the trip's fine. Maybe different course, but I think they deserve their chance in this. And there's also the very admirable Nigel Twiston-Davis's Guard Your Dreams. Now, Sunday we're doing this. The race declarations are tomorrow. He needs 5 to come out. But if he gets in off bottom weight, I feel like he could be dangerous. Because he's always one of those horses that's planned, or rather wanted to get a really nice pot, but has always jumped into like one or two too many. I mean, how many times has he been tried in hotter company at Cheltenham in the likes of the International, that sort of racing? So for me, at the moment, depending if they get in, I'm looking at Lucky Place or Guard Your Dreams, both each way. I think Lucky Place is about 11 to 1, 14 to 1, something like that.
Currently 11s. I think he will just about get in. I think he will just sneak into this. I'm pretty confident he will.
Okay. Well, that's my shout then. So over to Tom.
Yes, I quite like Lucky Place because of the way that he stepped up in trip, and he stepped up in class rather, from a class 4 at Taunton to then go on and run Gidley Park, a proven performer, into half a length and a grade 2. Now, appreciate that it was on the new course, which is more about stamina. But if it does turn into a fight for stamina, I'm sure he's got it in him. But there are 2 others that I'm looking at that as well are taking my fancy. One is, I'm going to have to be careful how Gigaro, who was behind Tully Hill over 2 miles and is stepping up in trip. Now, again, I can't see them doing anything wrong. Enough, the previous sponsor of the Bearing Bingham, built by Ballymore. So he's potentially well in, but my concern with him is, does he look a 3-mile type? Will he be tracked for speed? If push came to shove, would he be outpaced? Because on his recent run, he was outpaced and stayed on. Now, that's good if you're doing the Albert Bartlett or the Pertemps final. But this is a more speedy race. So I'm thinking, will he be caught out? So I don't know yet. I might end up with 3 in that race. Depends how the first day goes. But yeah, those are the 3 that I'm looking at.
Okay, and just to go alongside the built by Ballymore sort of hopes, Martin Brazel has been chinned in this race the last 2 years. 2 years ago with Fast or Slow, so he's hoping it'll be a case of third time lucky. Built by
I don't
Ballymore's
think he
last 2
runs
runs on
this
heavy
year,
ground.
third time lucky.
Built by Ballymore, obviously 2 runs on heavy ground, so you can imagine he wants it as soft as possible. It currently is soft at Cheltenham, current going description, so he'll hope the rain sort of sticks around for the next couple of days anyway. Just quickly, I'll rattle off one more name here. Dolly the Great has been sort of earmarked as one of Nicky's main handicap hopes for the week. I'm not sure if the horse comes here or later on in the week, but it's currently 8 to 1 at the moment. Will need plenty to sort of come out to get into this, but should the horse go here, Jack, I'll quickly just chuck this to you before we move on. Would you be confident that Dolly the Great can run a good race in this?
Definitely worth their chance. I actually thought the horse was going to win the Betfair Hurdle, and they stayed on. They met an awful amount of traffic. They came from it. I wouldn't say they came from an awful position, because the actual winner of that race, Iberico Lord, came from, if you imagine the home straight at Newbury, Iberico Lord was on this side, and Dodgy the Great was on this side, or no, they were opposite way round. Do apologise. But needless to say, Iberico had a much better run through, a more seamless run through. There was all sorts of traffic, and Doddy stayed on great to grab. It was either, I think it was 4th or 5th in the race. But I feel like they relish the hill. So if they do get in, I'd quite like to see them in this. But it's once again, mate, it's a very hot handicap.
Okay, and just quickly, I'll reveal the horse who has jumped out on me. I am a big fan of My Tai. Finished fourth in the Martin Pipe last year. Has been chasing this season. It hasn't quite worked out over the bigger obstacles for him. He was last seen finishing in behind a couple of very nice novices in the form of Jello and Can Do Kid. I think Can Do Kid's going to be a very nice horse, potentially a Coral Gold Cup horse back at Newbury at the start of next season. He won the Greatwood Gold Cup last time. I think Jello's quite overpriced in one of the novice chases later on in the week. And I just think My Tai back over the smaller obstacles. I think he might just have a bit of a squeak. I think he's currently around about the 25 to 1 mark, just looking now. And off the back of that Martin Pipe run last year, in behind a couple of very nice horses, he's currently 16s at the moment, I should say. He'd be the horse who, at the moment, off 11 stone 9, I think can definitely serve it up to some of the market leaders anyway. That now brings us into the champion chase. On paper, it looks to be again another Willie Mullins. Basically, could be a treble here by the time we get into this with El Fabiolo, last year's Arkle winner. I know both you lads are huge fans of John Bon. For me personally, with John Bon, it was a bit of a shock last time out in the rearranged Clarence House behind Elixir de Nuts. He was very lucky he didn't come down at the top of the hill. I don't know how he managed to stay on his feet. I think we will see a much better horse in John Bon when he goes up in trip. I don't think he's a 2 miler. I can't see him winning this. And I just find it sort of difficult to see him reversing the form of El Fabiolo. And Tom, will start with you from the last year's article.
Well, I do feel that the run at Cheltenham last time out, because it was a week later, what you've got is this horse being prepped and prepped and prepped to be at the top of their game on that one day. But then if that meeting gets delayed a week, they have to be keeping them at that absolute prime for an entire week. It's, again, I'm going to use a strange analogy, but imagine you've got a very wound up catapult and you're trying to keep that for a week, and then the tension wears off, it doesn't perform as well. That's what I feel happened. He trained over the top. He went going on a peak, absolute peak, and then he went over the top of it, and there's the race. Instead of being here, he was here. So I feel as though his jumping will be sharper. He'll prefer the course. And as well as that, I think this is probably his only chance to win a champion chase. But all he needs to do is, because he's a very good jumper, all he needs to do is concentrate on his jumping, and he'll put El Fabiolo to the acid test. Because I wasn't truly convinced by him in the Arkle. I think he got lucky last year. And I must admit, I've not been convinced by his jumping elsewhere. So I think that I'm willing to take on El Fabiolo. Is it from the heart? Is it from the head? I don't know. But I think this is John Bond's last chance, because I think this time next year, you'll be seeing him either in the Ryanair or the Gold Cup. So if it's going to happen, it's going to be this.
And Jack, are you basically in the John Bond camp as well?
I'm afraid, sorry to sound like a broken record, but yes, I am indeed in the John Bond camp, and mainly because I don't feel the real John Bond turned up in the Clarence House when it was rearranged. Yes, his jumping was a concern that day, and I have seen a video of him schooling, and a lot of the comments did say that John Bond didn't look slick at his fences. However, he was tugging, so maybe he was just keen to get on with things. There'll be a strong pace. Hopefully, he doesn't get too lit up. But yeah, I'm afraid I just can't warm to El Fabiolo, and the price is it's not inviting at all. If you're having a bet on this race, it's like Lossiemouth in the Mares' Hurdle and State Man. You know, you look back at what you're actually going to get back. You'd have to put an absolute shed load on to win anything significant. So it's just a non-betting sort of race in terms of if you're putting your money on El Fabiolo. I wouldn't even call him a banker for this race. I'd rather put my money on John Bon. We'll give a shout out to a couple of other horses. I mean, if Captain Guinness gets a place, that would be fantastic. I think the horse isn't quite at that top level that you need to be to win this. You'd have to hope that John Bon and El Fabiolo slip up seriously to get a squeak. But as well as that, I was quite interested to hear that there's thought about Edwardstone being a threat. Now, Luca, your face says everything. I know we've had this conversation this week. Before we go on to the Glenfarclas, I just want to hear your thoughts on Edwardstone, because I'm firmly in the John Bon camp. Again, could be biased. I absolutely love this horse, but for me, I'd rather go on him than El Fabiolo. But take it away with Edwardstone.
To be honest, this year I thought he was tripless. I think he was tripless up until Newbury, 2.5, 2 miles. He just didn't show anything to me that suggested he'd be a champion chase horse. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he goes to Newbury and puts in an absolute fantastic performance in the game spirit. And all of a sudden, everyone's thinking, hang on a minute, is he back to where he was when he won the Arkle 2 years ago? And on that piece of form alone, you have to take that into consideration. He comes into this with a very strong chance. If he's in that exact same form as he was, and if he's in the same form he was 2 years ago, he definitely comes into the reckoning here. A quick mention about El Fabiolo's jumping. I saw Nico de Boinville on a Cheltenham preview saying that how could El Fabiolo be the best horse in the race when he does belt a fence? Does he not remember the likes of Courto Star, who fell on several occasions? Did it tarnish his legacy? No, it didn't. Long Run won a Gold Cup. His jumping was pretty poor on the whole. Fell in the Grand National. Denman fell on more than one occasion too. So you don't always have to be the best jumper, but your class can get you out of it. And that's what El Fabiolo does. He's just a very good horse with a high cruising speed. So he can belt a fence along the way, but the engine underneath does take him into the race and gets him out of trouble 9 times out of 10. It happened in the Arkle last year too. Both him and John Bon went off quite quickly. They both made the odd mistake along the way. I just can't see El Fabiola getting beaten. I think at this trip he's bomb-proof. I really do. And this isn't the strongest of races here. I think Captain Guinness will be a solid each-way pick, as you mentioned. His jumping's pretty clean and it will hold up. Elixir de Nuts, look, he was gutsy last time in the rearranged Clarence House. Great for Freddie to get his first grade one. John Bon reverses that form quite easily, I think. And to be honest, looking down the rest of the field here, Boot Hill's got a couple of F's to his name. He's fell on his last twice. Would he get round? Probably not. And Thunderball Savola has been placed in this race a couple of times before, but it's just miles out of his depth, I do believe here. And as boring as it sounds, El Fabiolo's the pick for me again to confirm that form of John Bon and win the champion chase. Now, this brings me on to the Glenfarclas Cross Country Chase. This race gets so much flack, and I just don't like it. It's got its place at Cheltenham, and it deserves its place at Cheltenham. It's a great race. The only problem I have with it, make it a handicap. It should not be a conditions race. We see in November, December, the first 2 ones over the cross-country course are handicaps, and they're great races. So why on earth are we changing and not reverting to type and going to a conditions race? I do not know. But I'll pass over to you guys before I stop waffling on here. We've got Manila Indo, former Gold Cup winner 15-8, Delta Work 5-2. I like Coco Beach. I like him a lot here. I hope this is a stepping stone to entry. His first go over this course at Punchestown, he loved it. He absolutely took to it like a duck to water and won incredibly well. I think he's a big danger to the top two in the market here. I think Manila Indo's too skinny at 15-8, and I'm more than happy to go with Coco Beach. He's one of my picks for the National should he come through this okay. I think he's got a real good cracking chance. And Tom, we'll come to you first.
You've been reading my notes, Luca, because I'm very much in the same camp with yourself. He loved his first time at Punchestown and absolutely, like you say, like a duck to water. What I will say about Manila Indo is I spoke to Henry de Bromhead whilst it was just after the Ladbrokes Champion Chase at Down Royal. And I asked him how they'd come out of the race because Manila was last. And I said, how was Manila and how was Envoy? Envoy, he was absolutely beaming with, but there was a tinge when he said about Manila. He said, well, I think it's just age catching up with him a little bit. So that's something that I would be concerned with. 15-8, and he hasn't shown anything to show for that one. Meanwhile, Galvin screaming in the back going, I was second last year. Why am I so far back? He's literally sat there like, I've actually been there and done it effectively. Delta Work, you've got the same problem with Delta Work. He's been there and done it, but Delta Work's getting on a bit. But is Delta Work still the king of the banks at the moment? I firmly believe, though, that the new pretender, well, he's not a pretender anymore, is he? He's got experience. And if he takes to this course, then basically you'll be walking, you literally won't be walking, you'll be running to the bookies or skipping to the bookies by the time they come around the bend. Because I think if Coco takes it and he has the stamina to boot, he won't be caught.
And Jack, are you in the camp of Coco Beach here, or are you sort of going towards that encouraging run last time over his course and distance from Manila Indo in the handicap last time?
Going to be so boring, mate. I am firmly in the Manila Indo camp. I think course experience is so vital. Don't give me the thumbs down, cheeky. I think Yes, okay, I'm somewhat of a hypocrite as well, based on my point regarding El Fabiolo and how short he is on the price. But I feel like Manella Indo 15-8 is run will put him spot on, especially because that was a handicap and this was the conditions. If it was a handicap for this, I don't think I'd fancy him because of the weight he'd have to carry. But this is the conditions. It's more his level playing field. He'll put him spot on. And with Delta work, and both of them are technically coming towards the sunsets of their careers. But Delta work, I think, has been there way longer than Manella Indo. We're also talking about 2021 Gold Cup winner here. So he's got a lot of class. Manella Indo. He's also, as well, absolutely gorgeous. So I think, for me, even though it's boring, and you two do put a very good point across for the Cocoa Beach, I think I'm going to just stick with Manella Indo for this.
Okay, and if he was to win this, Manella Indo, he's currently 33s for the Grand National. Is he a type, Jack? I'll stick with you for this because you're quite keen on him. Would you be looking to back him from the National as well if he was to run well here,
No.
regardless if he doesn't win?
No, because of the same points I've said about the handicap. He got found out under the handicap system in January, but now it's the conditions. He'll be a lot better. So as a result, I'll have him for this race, but I wouldn't be thinking at the moment, regardless of what he does, I don't think he'd be on my shortlist for a national, but that could change.
Okay, and just one final word quickly. Statler's in here. The poor boy found it just far too hot in the Gold Cup last year. He just was taken off his feet from the word go. I can't see him having the gears to really sort of trouble the market leaders around here. I just think he's a bit of a plodder. He's one-dimensional. He might be staying on towards the end, but from
Nope.
probably about a mile back. One at a huge price. He's a massive price, and he might just run well. I do think Frankie de Burle might have a small squeak of being the best of the rest. He finished second in December in the handicap behind Late Night Pass, who I think's got a cracking chance of entry this year. And Frankie de Burle warmed up for this. I was at Kempton that day. He finished fifth of seven in behind high stakes player. It was a warm up for this. He was never going to win it. It's just put him on for this. He loves this course. He's very effective here. I do believe a two-time summer plate winner at Market Raisin. I think he's a massive price. I don't think he should be 66 to 1. I think he should be a lot shorter than Ascari at 10 and back on the lash. I think he's got some good recent form around here, and he might just be best of the rest in terms of the bigger price horses. That now will move us on into the Grand Annual. This looks a red hot handicap. It really does this year. We've got some very nice types going into this. We'll start with Harper's Brook, one of the biggest monkeys in the game at the moment. He tends to find a way to get beat at every opportunity. The race at Sandown I was there for was a wacky race. It was a race that if anyone was going to win it, it was going to be him. We had Loose Halls Carnage. We had Alexis Dio falling at the last. I can't really fancy him for this. Coming up the Cheltenham Hill, I just don't think he's going to find too much of pressure. And I think if he was to be in front, you're taking a huge risk and a huge gamble that he might just think, you know what, I can't do this. And he'll just pull himself up and like Ascot. Tom, are you very much in the Harper's Brook camp or are you looking elsewhere for this?
Oh, this is a difficult one because I'll need to have another look at this. Um, but I can't see Harper's Brook winning it simply because he's going to get up the hill and go. He's going to get over the last, and the jockey will be sat there holding onto his reins. And next minute, the horse will go, right, I want me tea. And literally, he'll just dart off and he'll go straight right like Bike Bike did. And effectively, that'd be a worry because the trouble with this horse is you can't actually rouse them along to a finish. You have to ride them like Archibald. You have to basically sit there. Otherwise, you start going for it. He's going to go, I will certainly do not do what you say. He basically stamps his hooves into the ground and says, no, if you want me to go faster, stop. Stop what you're doing. I'm not doing that. I'm a bit concerned by him. I wouldn't be confident going into that race. You'd be thinking, brilliant. He's in the lead over the last. Yes, and he's stopping. That's a big concern for me. He's an enigma. Absolutely. I will say this, though. I have noticed that a certain Tristan Durrell is taking £3 off Calico.
Very good pilot. Very, very good pilot.
Oh, yes. And also, very good horse. I can't remember the last time Calico ran a bad race. I can't remember the last time he ran a bad race. He was at Doncaster recently, and we've seen him. He seems every time me and Jack go jump racing at Doncaster, and there's a 2 mile handicap, always seems to be in it. Yeah, he was there on the 27th. He was behind Gabriel's Getaway. I mean, Gabriel's Getaway, let's be honest, he was running with, it was like as though he was running with a mouse on his back. 9 stone 13. Ben Godfrey gave him a cracking ride. I'm not saying he's a mouse or anything, but it was the weight difference that cost Calico. But Tristan was taking £3 off him that day, still was pacing at least well over a stone, near a stone and a half in difference. And he was only beaten by less than 3 lengths. So I do have a feeling that Calico could be one that sneaks in at 16-1. So he's one I'm looking at thinking, maybe this is his time.
And Jack, pass over to you now.
Okay, so just going back onto Harper's Brook, can you imagine Kevin Blake watching this race through his fingers or his hands? He'd be like this coming to the last. He'd be like, well, tell you now, Lucas, oh, Christ, over the last. Well, I tell you now, oh, Jesus. He's going to be like that. Which we'd all be like that if we were backing him. Me personally, no, I wouldn't be backing him. A couple I like, Dancing on My Own, he won at the Course and Distance in October, and he's not been in such good form since, however, so maybe a return to Cheltenham might help. There was one horse I was absolutely praying to every deity that they were going to run here instead of in the Arkle, and what happened? Gavin Cromwell declared him for the Arkle. My mate Mozzie, I really think he should have won this. He should have run here. I think he would have won this. And he was my bet. So that means that I'm going to go and look at a horse who is a bit of an exciting 5-year-old. It's Madara. Sophie Leach has a good one on her hands. And he won at Leopardstown by doing that thing that British trainers don't seem to do, which is, I think I'll run my horse at Leopardstown. So the fact is, she's not afraid to take on the Irish. She's gone over to their backyard in a handicap chase and won. Bring it over here. So for me, I'm probably looking at Madara. I will have another look at the race, but at the moment, it looks like it's going to be Madara for me.
I'm in agreement with you, Jack. I'm all over Madara. I think he's got a cracking chance here. I'm not too sure who's going to ride him. I'm not sure if James Reevey will come over or Harry Cobden will ride because Harry Cobden won on the horse 2 starts ago. But I go back to that Cheltenham win 2 starts ago over 2 miles. The horse is in behind. And Excelsis Dio is a very smart horse, is in this race. Fun and Ball Civila, graded horse in his pomp, smart horse. Calico, very smart handicapper. And then, as you rightfully said, he's gone to Leopardstown, €100,000 race and won there as well. He's been trained fantastically well by Sophie and Christopher Leach. I think he's got a cracking chance in this. Looking down the rest of the field here, I've seen Pembroke rock up in this. And you guys both know, I've been banging on all season long. I think Pembroke's being plotted for a handicap. I think that's the plan. He's been running in graded action all through the course of the season. Didn't run a bad race at all on the Pendle last time either. Finished 3rd, got a little bit tired in behind Blow Your Wad and Tamuras. But I do think they're trying to prove a point. He's not a graded horse. And I think if they can get a lenient mark in any sort of handicap this week, it looks like he might go here possibly. We've seen how good Dan Skelton can be in handicaps and how much of a target trainer he is at exploiting a good horse in a handicap. And I'd be really intrigued to see how Pembroke gets on here. He's 25-1. And I think that's a very nice price for a horse who's taking a big drop down in grade from what he's been operating over the course of the season. That'd be my 2 there. Just quickly, guys, one more I'll mention here. Evan Williams hasn't got many going to Cheltenham this year, but he takes in a horse going for a hat-trick in the form of Liberty Hunter. Harry Cobden is looking likely to get the ride here as well on this horse. He won at Cheltenham last time, beat Matata, and Matata's gone on to be a very solid horse in graded company, finished 2nd in the Lightning behind JPR1 at Lingfield last time. That form's not looking too bad at all. And if Matata was to run a decent race earlier on in the week, the form line there looks pretty strong.
I suppose you can put forward that one. Obviously, you've got Evan, fantastic trainer. What I was going to say, however, is he hasn't been following up his run since he won his Gold Cup at Chepstow in the Robert Knoxrum. But Unexpected Party, on the day when he gets it right, he gets it right. But I'm just thinking this trip might be a bit of a concern unless they literally send that grey one bowling out in front like they did at Chepstow. and just put a couple of rivals to the sword. Because if he gets his way in front, he might just be able to spring a bit of a surprise and get a placing. Don't get me wrong, he beat Napper's Hill before Napper's Hill went on to win the Rising Stars. I'm just thinking to myself, is he worth putting a bit of money on? I think it's around something like 20, 25 to 1 at the moment, Unexpected Party.
25s.
Yeah. He might be worth, if you're looking for something, I mean, Unexpected Party might be one that, sneaks in somewhere. Dan Skelton's going to get him absolutely right for this. But he did say that his Gold Cup was the Robert Mottram. So I would say this, if he gets a placing in this, it'd be a massive plus to the team.
Okay, right. That's the Grand Annual done and dusted. We've made plenty of good cases for some nice horses at nice prices there. That now brings us into the concluding race on day 2, the Champion Bumper. 6 to 1 the field. This is a tightly contested race. This could go to absolutely anything. Currently, Jalon de Dairy tops the market at 6 to 1. Jasmine Devou 6 to 1. I'm a big fan of Tishan. I really like the way how he done things at Exeter. Rolled his sleeves up, really ground it out towards the end of the race. I like him a lot. I think he's got a nice attitude. I think he'll make into a lovely novice hurdler next season. He's very much my pick for this. And Jack, coming to you first, are you in the Tishan camp, or are you looking towards possibly a Romeo Coolio, a Yellow Clay, or a Jalon de Derry?
Just tell me the truth, mate. Have you been reading my flipping notes? Right. You probably saw me lose it, like, oh my God, I can't believe this. What is he doing? I can't believe this. Tishan. Yeah, I really like this horse. He smashed a horse called Gasmani 20 lengths at Exeter. That horse, Gasmani, had won a month and a half earlier a Larkhill Maiden by 15 lengths, where that thing pulled like a very good thing that day. I can still see the horse and rider, admittedly, because one of the horses had bled from the nose. They were splattered with it. They're okay now, thank goodness. But this horse, Gasmani, was absolutely cruising. And dare I say, even the horse and rider were smiling as they jumped the second last. And they've come away from it. They're smirking. He's had a hands and heels job, won absolutely nicely. And then he's been smashed 20 lengths at Exeter by this Tishan. I think Paul Nicholls' Westerner gelding is the one to be on, especially because, and it's controversial me saying this, I haven't actually seen a lot from the Irish this year. And usually you'd have the winner of the bumper at Down Royal going for something nice. Well, the bumper at Down Royal on Ladbrokes Champion Chase Day, I don't think that horse is really going to be going to Cheltenham. So, and as a result, as we'll probably see later on in this preview, Cletus Poulaw, the second, well, he's going for the Martin Pipe or the County Hurdle. So, for me, I think it's worth looking at Tishan.
Tom, are you joining us in the Tishan camp, or are you moving away from Tishan possibly?
Should we just get matching T-shirts all in the Tishan camp? Because
good marketing initiative. Yes,
with the marketing there, they're running your own business. That goes and shows that one. But I must admit, I was looking at this race and I thought, now whilst we've mentioned Gasmani, who doesn't run here, but Gasmani isn't a 2-miler. It's clear to see. He won a 3-mile point. His previous 2 runs at 2 miles in national point-to-point bumpers. Nothing really there. But what I was impressed with is the way that this Tishan just went, all right, let's go, bump away from a race fit horse. Yes, it was a point-to-point, but he was only there a month and a half. He had a race under his belt. And the way Jack was saying, it was absolutely true. Just waiting at the final fence. And all we saw was just this horse absolutely tanking along. He's had a race. He's had fitness on his side, and Tishan just blew him away. And Peacenik as well, who was second. You're looking at that one thinking, well, that one, they had a flat race. They've come out quite nicely. They're by Mount Nelson. So, again, they'll get the trip. I do honestly think this Tishan, since coming over from France, I think was it Ireland or France he came over from?
Irish point winner over 3 miles.
Yeah, for an Irish pointer, just going on his form now. For an Irish pointer who wins by 41 lengths on his pointing debut, I was confused by which one it was, to then go and do that to some decent looking prospects on paper. There's more than a whiff of class about this lad. He represents the connections who came third last year with Captain Teague. But yeah, this Tishan, Paul Nicholls has said that he's got a bit of a twinkling about it. He likes this horse. So potentially, we might be looking at a very good one. So get your odds on while you can, because I think that he's the best of the British.
Yes, case made. Across the board, we're all in favour of Tishan. The T-shirts have to be made if he wins the champion bumper. That now brings us into the third day, and we've got a cracking novice chase, a cracking renewal returners to get stuck into here. Grey Dawning has been confirmed to be going here. She's coming here instead of the Brown Advisory. It took Dan Skelton a bit of a while to work out which race to take her into, and she comes here. She's currently now 5-2 favourite after being put into this race. Ginny's Destiny, second favourite, is a horse who I like a lot. I think he's really improved since moving from Tom Lacey to Paul Nicholls, and this season he's not looked back at all. His last run in the novice handicap chase is incredibly rock solid form. You've got Theatre Man in second, who's well fancied for some of the handicaps later on in the week. Es Perfecto ran an absolute stinker at Sandown on Saturday. He was smashed off the balls in 6-5 favourite and was beaten 18 lengths in last. That was not his showing at all. And I hope something came up from that run because that was just not Es Perfecto at all. And the certain horse in sixth that day was Blow Your Wad. And Blow Your Wad's come out since and won the Pendle Grade 2. So the form is looking rock solid effectively. And I think that novice chase at Cheltenham in January will be a very nice novice chase to look back on here. But for you, Jack, are you very much in the Ginny's Destiny camp, or are you looking towards Grey Dawning, or possibly even a Rocco, who, if he were to win this, would be a fantastic training performance from Oliver Greenall and Josh Guerrero?
I think, all right, we're going to have to get one thing straight, right? I've asked twice. I'm now asking for a third time. Have you been reading my notes? Seriously?
I confirm we haven't. I can confirm that we have not read anyone's notes. It's just great minds think alike, I'm afraid.
This is unbelievable. It's very uncanny. I mean, I've raised my point as well about Factor File. I think you should go for this over the Brown Advisory. We'll find out tomorrow. Ginny's Destiny. Now, Harry Cobden did say this was actually one of his best chances in an interview with, I think it was Racing TV. So, therefore, this could be Stage Star Mark II. Grey Dawning, the form behind Stay Away Faye reads very well. They beat Appleway 14 lengths at Warwick. They did get £11 from Garda Manil at Haydock, which was impressive enough. But my favourite bit of form is there's a lovely photo by one of the Cheltenham course photographers, Becky Bailey. She was at the second last when Grey Dawning absolutely ploughed through it in the same race with Ginny's Destiny. And you can see how low the horse got. Great photo, Becky. And this horse was giving them £3 and only just lost by half a length. So, as a result, you'd have to say that Grey Dawning is an absolute, a very good thing for this. But I will make a mention. Iroko, injured since his sparkling Warwick win. He's obviously very inexperienced over the fences, but if Oliver and Josh can get him to be not just racing in this race, but placed, heck, even winning, it would be one of the greatest training performances of this season. And the track and trip is fine. Because remember, he won the Martin Pipe over the same track and trip. It's the new course now. We've gone from the old, we're on the new. So my verdict is Grey Dawning, if Factor File doesn't come to the Turners, and Iroko, he's worth a couple of quid, surely, if you've been doing all right. But that's my point.
Quickly, before we pass to Tom, Factor File's not in this. He ain't going to come here. Is Iroko a bit too skinny at fives for a horse who's just come off the back of what was looking to be a season-ending injury, possibly? You can answer that question.
I think maybe, but it's just the potential of, like, first of all, who he's trained by, secondly, who he's owned by, and thirdly, that win at Warwick. yes, he suffered the injury, but the fact that the team are extremely happy with how he's come from it would be an absolutely brilliant training performance if it is that he comes back from this and runs. It would be absolutely unbelievable if it is that he was even to win it. And I'll tell you this now: if it is he wins, then the crown in Malpas will run dry that night because everybody will be in there. Everyone will be in there, and it would be an incredible celebration. But obviously, the concern is the lack of a recent run. And the fact is, as well, he still only has had one chase run. It may have been sparkling, but to come here and win, it would be the training performance of the season. It really would. Again, I'm going to just recap on what Jack said. Ginny's Destiny, one of Paul Nicholls' best hopes. Grey Dawning, yes, he decided to take half the fence with him from his recent trip to Cheltenham. But going ahead with what's saying, again, I can't take to Facile Vega. I just think something's bothering him. We don't know yet. Authorized Speed looks to be far out of his depth, unfortunately, with this one. Even if he did look like a likely winner at Ascot for coming down. I do think this race goes to Britain again. And I'd be tempted to say that if it isn't Nicholls, it's going to be either his progeny, that Mr. Skelton, or it'll be the yard down the road from us at Malpas who will take that one.
Okay, perfectly case made there. We're now going to the Potemps final. Just quickly, Jack, Cletus Poulor's favourite for this. He's not in the Martin Pipe. He goes here. It's a sole entry at Cheltenham all week. He currently tops the market at 6-1. Ted Walsh has got a very interesting entry here. Currently, he's 15-2. I'm not going to try and pronounce the name. I'm not going to be disrespectful and butcher the name. But we always tend to see with Ted Walsh, when he does send a horse over here, the market tends to sort of give it plenty of respect and the odds tend to get slashed in. And as we go down the field, Chantry House is a horse who you both know I've been very, very critical of over the past couple of years. I've always been a believer he's a nice horse. There's a nice horse in there somewhere, but his jumping at times over fences let him down several times. He pulled up in a Gold Cup a couple of years ago because his jumping went to just fell apart early on and he pulled up. I thought he ran a very nice, eye-catching race in the qualifier here behind Beachcomber at Huntingdon last time, just to get him qualified for this. I like his chances. He finished third at Cheltenham prior to that. Again, in a handicap hurdle behind Buddy One, who's a very progressive handicapper. But I think he'd have a nice chance in this. On class alone, I think he's a classy horse, the class angle in this. And Jack, you can kick us off with this.
Okay, so he isn't actually one that I'm looking at. I've only got 4 that I took a look at. One of them you've mentioned, Cletus Poulor. For me, 139 doesn't look ideal for him. It seems to be a bit of a hit and hope, unfortunately. Bold Endeavour was 5th in the Call Cup off 140 last year. He's rated 143 this time around. I don't think that's very fair on him, given what he's done. Ikera is becoming frustrating, but he's only £2 out of being ideal on a winnable mark. But the one I like is actually Oliver Greenall and Josh Guerrero's White Rhino. If he manages to sneak into this, he stands a huge chance carrying a low weight of 10 stone 3. So for me, he's my pick, White Rhino.
Okay, Tom, rattle through this for us. You in the White Rhino camp?
I'm not in the White Rhino camp, only on the basis that I'm fearing he's not going to get in. So I've gone for a horse that I feel is a graded horse in a handicap. And I think that this is a bit of an interesting one for them. And it's a horse who you have mentioned. It's Cletus Poulor. Now, I quite fancy him because, for me, he's an out-and-out 3-miler. You look at his point-to-point runs. His last point-to-point run was literally, all I can say is a run at what was called a Fairy House point-to-point course. And he won that one by a length and a half. There was a certain horse, though, who is actually running the next day, who I have been very impressed with over this season, in the Jukebox Man. I've been talking to Sam Martin of Rainer in Racing, and she's been very happy with this lad as well. I mean, Ben Pauling's having a cracking season with his novice hurdlers. And this lad, Cletus Pulo, was 6 lengths on point-to-point debut behind him, and has then went on after that, after about 152 days or something, he went on to win his point-to-point. He then was seen under rules in a bumper over 2 miles at Down Royal and was only just beaten by a horse called Big D. Not sure why they've named that horse that one, but we'll leave it at that. He then goes into Thurles and Maiden Hurdle, second, 2 miles. 2.5 miles, second. Again, nothing wrong with those performances. But it's the interesting one is who was he second to by 25 lengths at Leopardstown? Oh yeah, Ballyburn. Nice. And then he goes over to Naas for a 2 mile 2 furlong and he wins it by 8 lengths easily. Just went clear in the last half a furlong or something. But then interestingly, he runs in a network, the Pearl Thames Network Group Handicap Hurdle. I'm just reading this form at the moment on the Racing Post. And it says he kept on from the last, but was no match for the winner by 3.5 lengths. I'm thinking to myself, hang on a minute. This looks as though they've just thrown him in that race to see if he gets the trip and if they've got an option. And the fact is that he's now only in this race shows to me that potentially this is an interesting one. He's certainly got a lot more going for him, and he's got a decent handicap mark of about 130. So I'm quite happy to have him. I know he's a shortish price favourite, 6-1, but he's done nothing wrong. He's only ever been second or first, so I'm sure he can keep that one up.
Okay, just before we move on, there's a couple here I'm just going to flag up. What on earth has happened to Montmorel? Only a 7-year-old still. Things have just not panned out to how I think Connections wanted. Was deemed to be a potential Gold Cup horse about this time 2 years ago, and it's just not materialised. He's now back into a handicap over hurdles. You're taking a bit of a chance, I think, if you're going to back him at a price. There is one at a price. Again, he needs to get into this, but I really liked his run last time. It's Lord Snooty of Christian Williams. Just got touched off by Cuthbert Dibble in the attempts qualifier at Haydock. Cuthbert Dibble's a bit shorter in the betting here. Lord Snooty would have got him with a couple more strides here. Lord Snooty went to Punchestown last April and finished 5th in a massive handicap over there as well. So he's got some solid form in a big field. He just needs to get in. Soft ground, no problem at all. Finished second on heavy ground at Haydock last time. We know how good Christian Williams can be in terms of being a target trainer at handicaps. And I think if Lord Snooty sneaks in, I think 20-1, if you're going to get 6 places or even more, I think he'd be a good sort of proposition to come in the first 6. I really do. I think he's a nice 7-year-old, progressing still. And if he can build upon that run in the attempts at Haydock, I think he'd actually finish in the first 6. I really do. That now takes us into the 250, the Ryanair Chase, and this looks to be a very, very tightly contested race. Banbridge tops the market here. El Fabiolo won't go here. Tom, I'm going to start with you. He won at Kempton last time, Banbridge. A very interesting piece of form because the horse he beat was Pic D'Orhy, and Pic D'Orhy went to Ascot next time out and slammed L'Homme Pressé, arguably over a trip too sharp for L'Homme Pressé. Are you in the Banbridge camp for the Ryanair?
No, I'm not, because I'm going with a horse that'll outstay him completely, and his name's Envoy.
Oh, not him again. Every preview we get
Oh,
on, Tom
get
is
a grip,
always
Luke.
flagged.
Go on, tell me how many times has Banbridge won at the festival?
In the Banbridge camp myself, but I'm just saying
How many has he won? Come on, Luca, stop dodging the question like a politician. Come on, Luca, tell me how many times has Banbridge?
Yeah, he hasn't.
Banbridge, I'm sure he went close, or at least won in a Martin Pipe or something. I think he won once. Envol Lane done it 3 times.
Oh, yeah, he did win the Martin Pipe, yeah.
Yep, Banbridge has won once. Envol Lane's done it 3 times. Envol Lane was only just caught by Jerry Calam at Down Royal. Yes, the lack of a recent run. But what I will say is, whilst the form of Banbridge is looking strong because of what happened at Ascot, as Jack can say, because he was taking some absolutely, quite frankly, not blowing our own trumpet here, but they were lovely photographs from that day. The race sort of fell apart at the start, really. Pic D'Orhy Harry thought, all right, I'll steal a couple of lengths at the start and then they'll have to catch me. It wasn't quite the trick for long press. And I just feel as though whilst long press was coming back at the end a little bit, Victoria's a master at Ascot. That's his trip. That's his job. But sometimes Victoria does find one slightly too good. And Banbridge came over, made use of his lower mark in Britain. And then, yeah, they did that nicely, set him up for the festival. But I do feel that if it comes to an absolute slugfest, I feel that Envoy's done it there before. He's been there. He's got the T-shirt. So I think that personally, Envoy Len, he wins it. And I'd be very happy to absolutely go on my sword for that one.
Okay, Jack, are you very much in the Envoy Allen camp here? I just find him, I think he's a horse who I just can't work out. Every time I fancy him, he doesn't run well. And when I leave him alone, he tends to run well. Just a very confusing horse.
Yep. So do yourself a favour, mate. Do me and Tom a favour and just step aside. Just leave him alone. Just do that. It's fine. I am on Envoy Allen. Mainly because his Down Royal second proved he's still a force. His first run of the season was a little bit lacklustre, but we think it was due to the ground. That's what Henry de Bromhead came out and said. He was stuck in the ground. His run Down Royal was absolutely brilliant. He's still got the tenacity. He's still got the fight there. He's still a force to be reckoned with. I think Capodanno shouldn't be going for this. I think he needs to go for the Gold Cup minimum. He's won the Cotswold Chase, so why not go for the trip? Win the Cotswold Chase, but then go for the Ryanair. No, doesn't seem like a good move for me. Banbridge, yes, he said his performing against Peak Dory is good, given how the lasses won the Ascot Chase. He's a worthy contender, but for me, it's Envoy Allen for the win. And hopefully, if he does win this time, I'll try not to lose my voice like I did last year, because I screamed that house down when he was running up that hill. Proud to say.
And okay, that's a very, very good case made. Where are we at with Stage Start? Last year's Turner's winner, I think it was, off the top of my head. He went to Cheltenham at the start of the year, won the Paddy Power, was turned out quite quickly again after that in the New Year's Day handicap chase and was pulled up. Perhaps too much of a hard race in the Paddy Power. A quick follow up there. Just quickly, Tom, before I give my sort of pick at a bigger price each way, where are we at with Stage Star?
Well, I do feel as though his recent run, I just don't think he wasn't quite right on the day. These horses at the end of the day, they're not machines. They do have an off day, as we've seen with Constitution Hill, as we've seen with Marine National. Quite a lot of them have off days. I still feel on the evidence of his Paddy Power run that he is very much in there, but he would have to improve slightly into this company, given the caliber of who he's facing. You've got Envoy Len, you've got Banbridge, you've got Capodanno, all three Irish absolute juggernauts that have come over to Britain in the last 12 months and plundered and whatnot from us. They sound more like Vikings. They really do, coming over to Britain and plundering our riches. But these juggernauts have done it. They've done everything they needed to do, and if Stage Star's going to get in there, he's got to improve a little bit, I find, but he hasn't got to improve by much. The owners group will be very grateful to hear.
Okay, there's one here who people might think slightly left field at a big price, but I think he's a cracking each way bet, and it's Fugitive in this. The December Gold Cup winner was narrowly touched off in the plate last March, and after that, you were sort of thinking, is he just one of those horses who's meant to be the bridesmaid, never the bride? But it all fell into place in December, in the December Gold Cup, when he ran down Il Rodotto, the very game Il Rodotto. It was a great race because both him and Furrow Bamboo went off at an absolute rate of knots and just stayed there. Gavin gave the horse a brilliant ride to get up on the line that day. I thought his prep run in the rearranged Clarence House was perfect. A trip far too short for him. Stayed on, done his best work at the finish. Sean Bowen, a perfect super sub to have because Gavin Sheehan will switch to ride Gar Law due to his connections and his obligations to ride for Jamie Snowden. But I think around about the 20, 25 to 1 mark, I really think Fugitive here has a nice chance against some perhaps more exposed horses in Protectorate and the very frustrating Ahoy Senor, who now tries this race in an attempt to try and get his career going. It's just all gone wrong for him this year again, and he's becoming a very frustrating horse. Could we see a hoist on your quickly before we move on? Line up in a stayers hurdle next March, possibly. If this does not go right in the Ryanair.
Yes.
I'm not so sure, because I feel personally, I don't know about it because I feel personally as though he's better going further. So I think even the stayers hurdle, I wouldn't even take him to Cheltenham unless he was going for the Gold Cup.
You ain't sure, do you think? Like last year, getting touched by Shishkin.
Uh, no, I'd still think that this lad's an out and out stayer. He needs probably to go for the Grand National if he's going to Aintree. I just think this lad, the further it is, the better he is.
Okay, we'll move on to stayers hurdle quickly. I think if a hoist on your went to Aintree for the National, we will not get round. I think it's jumping, but just not will not hold up. Anyway, the stayers hurdle, we're coming to this now. This looks a very interesting race. I'm going to hold for my picks because I'm probably going to get laughed at for the pair of them. Tiapu tops the market 2-1. Only one run this season. Look, I personally feel Nicky Henderson gets a lot of unwarranted stick for his campaigning of horses. Look, you don't have to agree with it. But Gordon Elliott's given Tiapu one run at the start of the season and has come straight to the festival. Unless I've been living under a rock, not one person's really sort of taken aim at him and sort of criticised him for it. So do we feel that Nicky Henderson gets a sort of tough ride in the media compared to people like Gordon Elliott who are doing the exact same thing with Tiapu, but people seem to be giving him a bit more of an easier ride, Jack?
Yeah, I've actually put that point myself. One run this season over 2 mile 4 is that ideal. So on that basis, you're exactly right, Luca. If this was Nicky Henderson, I mean, look at what's been seen about Constitution Hill. He has had the absolute flack given to him. He's had absolutely everything. Oh, why have you only run the horse once? Why, if it was up to you, then you'd only run once a year. That's it. But like you say, I have not seen one person on social media writing anything about Tiahupu. And I can't fancy him for that reason. Now, I did notice what you said about you're probably going to get laughed at for your 2 picks, Luca. I know the first one. Tell me about Champ.
Look, I know what people are thinking with Champ. You're banking on him bouncing back to some kind of form he probably only showed really in the long distance hurdle of last season when he was on the other side of the track. Paisley Park was on the other side of the track. He just held on. Ever since then, he's not shown too much form. The interesting thing I find with him is he's been tried at home in cheek pieces. I feel he's always been a horse who tends to race behind the bridle. He's quite lazy. So I'm hoping the cheek pieces might just spark him up and try and get some improvement. He was
Yeah.
50s at the start of the week. He's now 25s. So there has been some money for him. So someone somewhere clearly thinks that he will improve for the headgear. And I completely get it's more of a hit and hope than anything else. You're banking on him coming into this and showing some kind of form. 12-year-olds do not win stayers hurdles. I completely get all of the stats that are against him. But the idea of champion cheek pieces does make him an interesting proposition. If he can race a bit more with a bit more zest into the bridle a bit more, he's a classy horse. He's an RSA winner 3 or 4 years ago now. If he can get back to some kind of form, I do think 25 is the big price. I know he's not shown too much. I thought his run at Ascot 2 starts ago was more like it. It was a step in the right direction behind Crambo, but he went to Cheltenham gassed towards the end of the race, and that's what just sort of left me in limbo a little bit here. But I'm hoping the cheap pieces will be a positive effect for him. But I'll pass to Tom now with Crambo here, the long walk hurdle winner. He looks to have a very good chance in this, doesn't he, Fergal O'Brien?
Well, I think Fergal is going to be at least in the placings with this lad. You can't knock his can't knock his form at all, Ambo. He's come through and showed that he is a very, very capable horse. And it seems that, again, the further they go with him, the stiffer the track, the better. Obviously, he's got some very high-class horses to beat that he's not been through before. He's had, for example, Flooring Porter, dual stayers winner. He's got potentially Cedar Burley to face. He's got Paisley Park again to reoppose. Paisley Park, even though those legs and whatnot, they're getting on a bit. It does not seem to be any sort of wane in him. He's still got the heart. He's still got the guts. He still wants to go over and do it. But I will say this: I think that Fergal, if it's going to be his first ever win in the festival, it's going to come on this day, because it's either going to be him or another one of his horses I'll catch on later. It's going to do it for him.
And Jack, we'll pass back to you. Where are we at with Flooring Porter? Was at one point looking to go down the National Hunt Chase route. He's come back hurdling now. Is this more of a case of a hit and hope, or a connection's thinking, look, this doesn't look a strong renewal. We might just get an easy pass on the front end again. Danny Mullins, as we've seen in the last couple of years, has ridden this horse to absolute perfection. And could we be looking at another masterclass from Danny on the front end on Flooring Porter in the Stayers Hurdle?
Potentially, but you'd have to be quite concerned the fact he's coming in off a novice chase campaign. So clearly something has happened. We don't know exactly what it was. Maybe he just wasn't. I mean, his run at DRF probably did it for him, that maybe it's just a little bit too soon with him. Maybe he doesn't take to fences. Maybe they're just trying this because of that reason alone, that maybe he's better over hurdles. Maybe we should keep him over hurdles. So it's not an ideal prep, but I know certain Sam Martin will be absolutely all over him because she loves this horse. Noble Yates would be an attractive prospect, Cleve Hurdle winner. I mean, Christ, what has this horse not won lately? But I don't think he'll be fully wound up because he's running in the National 5 weeks' time. So I think he'll be more of an eye towards that. Paisley Park, if he won here, seems to be unbelievable, but the stats, they go against him. Same with Sire de Burley, both 12-year-olds. I'm actually in the Crambo camp. I think Fergal Bryan gets his first win at the Cheltenham Festival. It's going to be this lad. His long walk race was absolutely what you wanted to see. In fact, we knew how good he was even before that race, because I think we all know that he probably should have won that race at Haydock.
Yeah.
And Connor Brace will be kicking himself every single day until he gets back on this horse. What I really want, and forgive me because I'm not involved in the horse at all, so it's just another one of these guys flouting their opinion, but I would really love to see Connor back on this horse. I really would. Yeah. I think it was it who rode in
Burke, yeah.
Jonathan Burt, that's the one. He did nothing wrong that day, but I think the only way Connor's going to get experience is by actually riding in these sorts of races, and Crambo's his mount. So I think I'm all over Crambo. Nothing more to say apart from that.
And just sticking with the whole jockey booking and the experience, I thought it was very harsh. I completely get there was frustrations that Connor perhaps didn't win the race. He probably should have at Haydock. But I didn't like the reasoning given for Connor not riding because he's not experienced at Grade 1 level. And as you've rightfully said, Jack, for a young rider, the only way they're going to get the experience is to get the rides in it. And I'm pretty sure that Connor would have made amends on Crambo in a long walk hurdle as well. So, but Johnny's a perfect replacement. Johnny's had a great season, fantastic rider, very strong. Excuse me. I kind of like Paisley Park. And I completely understand that 12-year-olds have got little to no chance in this. But as Tom rightfully said, he has shown that there is no worry about his attitude towards racing. And he's been so unlucky in the last couple of runs, been touched off a couple of times. The concern I have now is that when he hits that flat spot at his age, he doesn't have the legs to get out of it. And by the time at which he gets going, it's just all too late. He will be staying at the end again. I'm hoping that Tom Bellamy will be third time lucky. If anyone can get the job done on him, it's going to be Tom. He'll be desperate to win this race and put behind the ghost of earlier on in the season. And as you've rightfully said, Jack, there wouldn't be a dry eye in the house. To go out on the bang, it would be fantastic. I like both him and Champ at bigger prices each way. I'm very much in the Crambo camp though. And just quickly before we move on, a certain Monkfish has appeared into this race. A one-time Gold Cup horse. It just has not gone right. Injuries and other things have gone in his way. He's now 10. Can we see Willie Mullins perhaps doing what he did with Penn Hill, working that magic and getting Monkfish to win a Stayers Hurdle possibly?
Nope.
Is that no all round?
I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if Mullins, because if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be him. Plus, as well, I just feel sorry for Sam Martin because she loves Monkfish. She loves Flooring Porter. If both of them are rallying up the hill, which one's she going to shout for? But I do think that, Penhill was off for a year or so when he went over and won a stayers hurdle, and I never saw that coming. Meanwhile, there's a very good school friend we had who's now a vet, who she's absolutely just like, yes, get in Penhill. And we're like, how did you pick that? She doesn't know the yard. She doesn't know anyone at the yard, but she managed to pick out Penhill. And I'm like, how did you do that?
Okay, that takes us into the plate now, where Krabilly's a very short favourite at 4-1 and has, if we go back to around this time last year, he was in that EBF final that Crambo won. And the EBF final from last year has actually worked out to be a very, very nice race. And I think it will again this year as well. So he's an interesting horse to look at. I personally am a big fan of Theatre Man. I think the form line in behind Ginny's Destiny could look very strong, as we find out earlier on in the week. And I think if Ginny's Destiny was to win, we could see a certain Theatre Man going off favourite because he finished second. Of course, down the field was Blow Your Wad as well, the subsequent Kendall winner. So the form's all there for Theatre Man. I don't think he was in the Ultima, didn't declare for that. This looks to be the race for him in the plate here. Harry Cobden's booked to ride. I think that's a huge plus for me, and he is my pick here. Just quickly, St. Felicien has got a couple of entries. I'm not sure which the handicaps he goes to, whether it's the Grand Annual or the plate. Still only 7 years old, and he's had his issues. Would we sort of be thinking that St. Felicien, if he goes here, would have a serious chance of running a big race, Jack?
He's not on my shortlist. Whether that means he won't run a good race or not is yet to be seen. The four that I've got, one of them you've mentioned, Krabilly. I've looked at him on the shortlist, but I think there's a couple of candidates that are stronger. Il Ridotto, we've mentioned Fugitive. However, I don't think Paul Nicholls has forgiven this Il Ridotto for the race in December. He lost it on the line. He could have very easily won it. And I think that'll be giving him nightmares. Garlaw, very good performance last time out. Festival Trials Day, won. But it's a career high mark. Looking
Ryanair
at
bound.
this,
Ryanair.
and he is Ryanair bound. That's another reason. Yeah, absolutely. The one I like, and again, it's another one of these horses that if this particular horse wins, this one should win it. I wouldn't say at the moment he is a banker about this, but I'm very sweet on Let's Be Clear about it.
12
Now,
stone.
12 stone?
Yeah, top weight at the moment.
Let me have a look at this, because I did not think they were top weight last time I looked. But
He's currently 12 stone, yeah.
that ruins it slightly. But the bit of form that I'm looking at is the fact that if Embassy Gardens wins on Tuesday, he should win this. Even with top weight. It's been done in the past. I think I probably should say at this point that the Thursday is one of my favourite days, if not my favourite day of the festival. There's some cracking racing. Thursday was the first day of the Cheltenham Festival that myself and Tom went with our dads. Holds special memories for us, and this is one of my favourite races of the entire festival. I love this race. A 2 mile, 5 furlong, handicap chase around Cheltenham. You gotta love them. So for me, at the moment, it's probably going to be Let's Be Clear about it. Not so much bothered about the top weight, I think, off the top of my head, come to speak.
And Tom, for you, where are you sort of looking here in this wide open handicap, as it always seems to be at Cheltenham?
I like this race because I had a lot of luck with it with a certain Road to Respect a few years ago. I must admit, I started walking off to the bookies as he came over the last. I thought there's nothing catching him. Normally, I try and find if there's a graded horse in a handicap. And at the moment, I need another good look at it. I haven't quite stuck my eye to this race. I'll be honest with you. When you were talking about Saint Felicien, I was thinking, is he actually still running in the Coral Cup last year? Because I had him for that last year, or the year before, and I don't think they mentioned him once. I couldn't remember him once on the commentary being mentioned. There's a couple in there I need to have a look at. Not for bet at the moment, but if there's an update, I'll pop it in the chat below.
Okay, no problem. Right, brings us into the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. This looks actually a very nice race on paper. The very strong Brighter Days Ahead tops the market 11-8. She is seen by many again as a good thing for this, and she's done nothing wrong all season long. She looks very, very good. Tom, we'll stick with you because you sort of teed up Dysart Enos when talking about Stayers Hurdle. This is a huge day on the Thursday for Virgil O'Brien with Cranbo and Dysart Enos. She's looked very good, albeit this is now a significant step up in class, and we're going to really find out just how good she is in this Mares Novice Hurdle on Thursday afternoon.
Oh, the old phrase goes, you wait for a bus and then two come at once. So I think that's going to be exactly what happens. What people are failing to realise is this horse has won a Grade 2 mares race at Aintree last year. And it wasn't like they won by a little bit. They won by 9 lengths. 9 lengths. And seriously, come on. It's not like this horse is underperforming or anything. I must admit, I was very, very... I mean, I can't tell you how happy I was to see that she was declared to run at Doncaster the day after the what was the Sky Bet chase, the Great Yorkshire, because we were up there for that meeting, and yes, it was a Class 3. Yes, she'd won a Class 3 before at Cheltenham, but I think this is some very shrewd campaigning by Fergal because he doesn't want to. He wants to avoid. He doesn't want to get a penalty. Whilst the likes of Jay DeGrugy and Brighter Days Ahead are going to have penalties for winning in graded races, they've kept the powder dry with her. They've done some shrewd plotting, and I think it's going to come off. She will be in there at the last, because as well as her being quite a lovely type, we have to also realise that stamina, she's not without it. She came second by 2 lengths in a 3-mile point-to-point. So if it is that someone tries to stretch the stamina of either Jay DeGrugy, Brighter Days Ahead or anything, Dysart Enos will go with them. And I'm genuinely thinking that Fergal is going to have not just 1, but 2 winners on that day. So all I can say is, if anybody's around like the area and whatnot, possibly the ploughing Pressbury or anything, watch out. Might be dry on Thursday night.
Quickly, are you in the Dysart Enos camp here, or are you a Brighter Days Ahead fan?
I've looked at Brighter Days Ahead, but the price is very short. Tom's put a very good point about keeping the powder dry for any potential penalties. She has been running in lower class events, but that run at Doncaster was just chef's kiss. Paddy hardly did anything on it. I was standing next to Fergal in the parade ring. I was on reporter duty that day, and he was just very, very happy. And she went up to Doncaster. She got the job done. She got it done nicely. Whether or not she beat anything good is up for debate and discussion, but she's proven time and time again that she is a very, very, very nice horse. And I think, did I see 9-1 for her for this race in some places?
Who's that for? Sorry.
Dysart Enos.
No, she's currently 7-2 now.
72,
yeah, that price went. But even 72 is...
Sorry, can I just interject there? Sorry to interject. But Paddy as well, just watch the race again at Doncaster. He's motionless under her. Well, on top of her. He's motionless. He's not doing anything. This horse was absolutely playing with them. I think she's a good thing.
Very bold. So, yeah, it's not a race I have a huge opinion on, to be honest. It's more of a watching brief for me. I'd love to see Dysart Enos win, and she looks very classy. And that will now lead us into the final race of the third day. It is the Falk Warwin Kim Muir. A difficult race, again, that I'm not really looking to sort of invest in. Angel's Dawn, last year's winner's back again to try and win the race after winning it last year. I think also holds an entry. I think she's also in the Irish National, I think. And I thought she'd go close in that, provided she doesn't have too much of a hard race here. It's not a race I've got much of an opinion on. So, Jack, I'll come to you because we were quite short with you for the Mayor's Novice. I know the way you're thinking here is 130 favourite for Gavin Cromwell. Is that where you could be looking at for this?
I'll be honest with you, mate. I haven't really got an opinion on this at the moment because I'm waiting to see the declarations and see who's taking off a little bit of weight from who. So I'm afraid it's a bit, at the moment, a little bit of a wait and see job.
No problem. And Tom, are you basically of the same sort of thinking there?
I am, unfortunately. Last year, I did actually back the winner of this one, which I was thrilled with, Angels Dawn. I thought they'd run really well in the Irish National, and to an extent they did. What I will say about this race is, again, it's a case of who's taking weight off who. I think if Angels Dawn had a bit of weight taken off her as well, she'd run as well as she did last year. Because I'm just going to look up how much they went up for that race. They're currently racing off 141. Sorry, you may have seen me eating biscuits a moment ago.
Where's my biscuit?
Come down and get some. You should have packed your provisions before. You didn't. Effectively, they got up £10 for this one. If there's anyone taking even so much as a couple of pounds off, that'll be a huge benefit because she ran off 135 recently, came third in a Grade 3. But she's been campaigned first 2 runs over hurdles at 118 mark. So I think that this has been the plan since last year. And I must admit, I'm tempted for a repeat job. However, I will say Annual Invictus, the winner of the Great Yorkshire, potentially goes here. And given how the form of the forward plan went out, because less than a month later they went on to win at Kempton, you're thinking maybe if Annual Invictus can put 2 good runs together, potentially the team have got a very good one.
Just quickly with Annual Invictus, did we think at Doncaster he had the run of the race? Because both him and Forward Plan were fairly prominent. That Great Yorkshire Chase, nothing really come from off the pace that day. So was it just a case of him being right place, right time on the day, effectively, Tom?
I think that it was right place all the way round because a lot of the horses in the back were struggling. I think there was a couple of well-fancied horses from the late Trevor Hemmings' family. They were going down into the back. Those who remember about Doncaster is that it's near enough a mile 6, mile 7 round. So even on the inside track, you're looking at a good 1.75 round. Even with about a mile and 3/4 to go, barely halfway, there were still some horses singing out distress signals, and it really was and turned into a bit of a war of attrition. And those that were up against the pace, they were able to control it, dictate it, and really put the sting to the ones in behind. Quite a few favoured ones actually dropped out of that, but it showed the form stacked up with Forward Plan second, then going on to win at Kempton, and then Annual Invictus seems to have been kept for one of these races. Connections did say they were looking at something along this route. Will he be able to improve, though? Again, remains to be seen, but potentially it'll be one of those two that I'll be taking for the race, either last year's winner or Annual Invictus. I'll have to have a good look through the field, but definitely last year's winner's jumping out at me at the moment.
Okay, that's wonderful. Now we move into the 4th and final day, and we kick things off with the Triumph Hurdle. So Gino here is a current warm favourite, 11 to 10. Over the last 24 hours, there was a bit of a rumour that sort of snowballed, and it hit the headlines that there was something not quite right with Sir Gino. And it turned out to be complete and utter rubbish. I felt so sorry for Nicky Henderson because he's had one issue after another with Constitution Hill, and he's woken up to this. Sir Gino's been seen in the video since, looking in very rude health. And in that Triumph trial, I was a big fan of Burdett Road going into that. So Gino comes along and absolutely gallops over him and runs him over and wins, basically hard held. I can't see him getting beaten. I really can't. And for all those who made those rumours up on social media about Gino, shame on you. And I hope he goes and wins this and sticks the big old humble pie into their mouths. Jack, we'll come with you first.
Well, I think I would just want to bring back 24 hours because it's going to be. This is exactly how the situation was. Nicky Henderson, he's sitting at home. He's just had a lovely tea cooked for him. And his phone is suddenly pinging. He's sitting there. Just about to enjoy my sherry. And what the hell's this? What the hell is? Oh my God! Virgino's Well, what the Servy? What on earth is in this sherry? Because I'm hallucinating that Sir Gino's got the same bloody thing that Constitution Hill has. It's all over here. And I tell you what I'm going to do. He's absolutely fine. I'm going to do a video and show all those top spots how bloody well he is. And that's what he's done. He's gone out. He's walked out this morning and he's been like, I'll show them. I'll show them all. That's what's happened. Thank you very much, Nicky. This is why you're one of the best in the business, because you have been transparent, more transparent than certain Red Bull campaigns and investigations, but that's F1. That's a different story. But needless to say, I cannot see Sergino being beaten. I looked at this, and even before the rumours came out, I just put Sergino. Nothing beats him.
You Sergino as well, just a simple start to the Friday for many people.
Well, the Friday of the festival should be really renamed. Instead of Gold Cup Day, it should be, oh, bloody hell, if you haven't had a win, a good sodding luck day. Because you've got absolutely massive minefield races to begin with. You've got the Triumph Hurdle, you've got the County Hurdle, which is always amazing cavalry charge. Then you've got the Albert Bartlett, which is just who's the strongest, toughest horse in the race. And if you haven't had a winner by this point, you're starting to panic a little bit. What I will say, though, surely this gives the game away. If you can
we can't
see it.
See. Oh, there we go.
It was being annoying there. But yes, I'm firmly in the Sergino camp, and I must admit, ever since I heard the news that he'd been bought by the Donnellys from France, I took one look at his run. I'm not too sure. Was it Otieu? Was it? Probably butchered the pronunciation of that one again. Again, I'm just looking on apps and whatnot to see where was it. Yes, Otieu, when he won in April this. I remember looking at that horse and going, first of all, bloody hell, that's a gorgeous looking one, as most French breds are. But yes, I was absolutely very taken with his performance at Cheltenham. We were all in the press room at Doncaster, and there was a collective audible gasp as he as he lengthened away. And when all the press room is in complete agreement of something, that's when you really know this is a potential good thing, this one. And I think that Nicky's done it before with Peace and Co. We know he's got a horse he can ready up and send into battle there. I'll be brutally honest with you. I can't see him getting beat. But it's like rumour mongers have tried to beat him, and that's gone down, well, awful. So roll on Friday.
Okay, case is made there. Pretty simple start. Sergino should get favourite backers off and accumulator backers off to a very good start on Gold Cup Day. That swiftly moves us into the County Hurdle. King of Kingsfield currently occupies favouritism at 13-2. Has some very interesting form in behind a certain Ballyburn last time at Leopardstown. That form looks very, very good because Slade Steele's a very smart horse. And also a certain Ebor winner, Absurd, finished fourth that day as well. So there's plenty of decent form around in that race here. He's going to, at the moment of recording, he comes into this race off 10 stone 12. So looks to be fairly decently weighted here. Tom mentioned about a graded horse in the handicap. Is King of Kingsfield Jack basically a graded horse in the handicap in the county?
If he doesn't win this, I'll be very surprised. Very surprised. He's my pick even before the decks were out. He just jumped out at me. Again, it could have been the price, but King of Kingsfield, if everyone remembers back in 18 months, won the bumper at Down Royal. I say 18 months. It was about 16, but let's not get pernickety. Anyway, he was very highly rated then by Gordon Elliott. Didn't go too well. Hasn't been 100%, but Tom noted that he was second in the Royal Bond by a length and a half. He then won at Leopardstown, third to Ballyburn. You did reference Luca. The Grade 1 Derby Sale Novice Hurdle at Leopardstown's DRS. We both think it's a handicap route. It's a shrewd move, and it looks the right move. He's settling a lot better, and his win was very nice to watch on the eye. He's been highly tried. 10 stone 12 is an absolute steal. He's the one to beat, in our opinion. And I'm going to say that on Tom's benefit, because I know Tom's gone for him as well. And I'm happy to move on.
Yeah, I'm just going to round off and say King of Kingsfield has been in the doldrums a little bit, but then he goes over and wins nicely at Leopardstown. He'd been in the Royal Bond, yep, and he was only a length and a half down. Quite simply, I genuinely think this lad has got his biggest chance to win a decent pot, and I would hope that he absolutely goes and, quite frankly, goes and does the business. I can't see anything beating him on that day. It's I'm just scrolling through the form here at the moment, and you're looking at whoever's been up there against him, and you're thinking we've all got good chances, but this lad's he's a little bit special in this race. I like to think that this lad is going to be one of my bankers of the week. Not going to lie to you.
Big shout for a county hurdle. But just looking at this, there doesn't seem to be anything. Like we always see in from county hurdles of past years, there's always one or two at huge prices that might just sneak in. Just looking here, Dan Skelton's 6-year-old, Le de Sud. 6-year-old here, off 10 stone 7 potentially, looks to be getting into this race as well. Was second last time out at Newbury in the Betfair hurdle, of course, behind the Berrico Lord. So there's a slight form boost there with Go Dante as well, winning the Imperial Cup, and also Doddy the Great if goes at the start of the week and runs well as well. So could we see another potential Skelton sort of upset to the favourite in this?
Nope.
Pretty simple, no. Okay, that's fair enough. That rolls us now into our next race. On Gold Cup Day, which is, of course, the if it will load for me, it's the Albert Bartlett, of course it is. Reading Tommy Wrong is 5-1 favourite for this. Looking at the odds, I think he goes here. Slight step up in trip from the 2.5 last time. I think if he goes here, I think he wins. Extra step up in trip's no problem for me. And although I'd like to see him go to the to the race at the start of the week, I've totally forgot what it's called. I think he's a very nice horse, and although I'm a big fan of Captain Teague too, I think he's slightly more of the Brave Man's Game ilk. I know Brave Man's Game was a lot more classier over hurdles, but I think Captain Teague is just a chaser in the making, and he'll appreciate the step up in trip, I think, as well. It's a tight race, this, and Jack, we'll start with you. Where are you thinking here? Because you didn't seem to be in agreement with me.
Okay, so I definitely wasn't in agree with you, and it's probably going to be controversial, but he hasn't been 3 miles, reading Tommy Wrong, since his point-to-point second, and personally, that's not something I look for when you're looking for a horse that will win an Albert Bartlett. I think it's going to be between, going to be between, there's a few candidates, so apologies if this gets a little bit long-winded. I agree with you, Captain Teague is a chaser in the making. He himself has not done the trip and won an attritional Challow. He was third last year in the Bumper, which is a race normally won by staying type, so that's a positive for this. He was second at Cheltenham now correct me, was it November? He was second? I think he was.
He was, yep.
That might make them prefer the Gallaghers, so at the moment I can't really nail the colours of that mass. Gidley Park is for the same reason. As previously been stated, he won the race at Cheltenham Festival Trials Day, usually won by the more staying type for the 3-mile race, so therefore this one. So theoretically, he does go here. Lecky Watson's been behind a couple of these, and therefore I think he's not one to consider. High Class Hero is not battle-hardened enough for me. Dancing City has not done the trip, but has run closer to it than reading Tommy Wrong. I think Dancing City won a 2-mile 6.5 furlong at Leopardstown, so at least they've got near the distance. But there's one horse I am absolutely now. Last year, Stay Away Faye won. They were second in the Grade 2 River Don. And that race was ultimately, whether people want to talk about it or not, it was a key race. And I think it's also played its hand again this year. Kerry Hill, who won that, was 4th at Cheltenham in a Grade 2, the Bristol Spa Novices Hurdle, to a potential weapon in Shanna Bob. And last time I looked, Shanna Bob was around the 10-1 mark.
Still is 10-1.
10-1. I think this is a massive price. Not as experienced as you might think, but they beat Kerry Hill well Kerry Hill was in fourth. They beat them well. They will have no problems with the trip. They will have no problems with the track. I think he's gone in under the radar. I've not seen an awful lot of people mentioning, but I'm actually going to go out on a whim and say that if Gidley Park and or Captain Teagues go to the Bearing Bingham, Shanna Bob picks up the pieces, although I think he gets placed as an absolute minimum. He's my bet for it.
And just quickly, Tom, before we pass to you, Nicky Henderson actually this week said that he thinks there's a hint of Bobsworth with Shanna Bob. So that's not bad company to be held in. Tom, with you quickly before we move on, are you in the Shanna Bob camp, or are you sort of looking towards a Captain Teague or maybe the top of the market to a Reading Tommy Wrong?
In the this race goes to Britain side of things, I think that again, it's just like the Bear Bingham. I need to see the actual declarations, but the race is just full of quality, especially from these shorts. I believe the Jukebox Man is in it. Could be potentially a very good 3 mile chaser next season for Ben Pauling. Must admit, I was meant to go to actually see him and cover the meeting at Foss Lass on, I think, the 16th of December. Got as far as Newtown, and I had to turn back. Not pleasant. The weather looked appalling. I thought that the meeting was going to be off. Surprised
roads were appalling though by you as well, and it's all it says it's A road. It's more like B roads.
It was actually more like river roads. Unfortunately, I looked on there were just water everywhere, so I thought I had to make a decision, and I came back. It was a good one actually, because the doctor said they needed to see me, and I quote, urgently. Not the words you want to hear, but still, all clear. Nothing sinister, but yeah. It was interesting to see how well he ground out those conditions, and then he also paid a compliment to Gidley Park, and then he went 2 weeks later and was very much. All I can say is I was very impressed with him in the Challow Hurdle, because he came to the last and he was in with a shout. Captain Teague, I absolutely love that lad, Captain Teague. He reminds me so much of the unfortunate, I will say, one of Nichol's recent ones who had to be retired early because he spent so much time injured. Unfortunately, they had not a lot of time with him. His name's gone out of my head. He was again a chestnut. He was massive. That's him. Oh, again, the race is full of so much quality. You can make a count for so many others. You've got Shanna Bob as well.
Bringing on the sherry.
It's that race is one of my favourites of the week. I really do love the Albert Bartlett. And if you are anybody who's doing a preview, like the Racing Post, you've got John Ferguson's Guide to the Jumps. If you're Time Form as well, good team there. If you're doing a preview of next season, you are absolutely mouth-watering at the prospect of who wins this race, because they're going to be some class act. This looks an absolute brilliant race. Again, I'll have to see who goes to the Bearing Bingham and who stays here, but I cannot wait for this race. I really can't. Looks mouth-watering.
Perfect. I mean, it does look a very nice race, and that just tees us up nicely for the blue ribbon of the entire week, the Cheltenham Gold Cup. This looks a fantastic renewal on paper. It really, really does. I think it's stacked. I think it's got plenty of quality running right the way through the market here. And we'll start with current favourite, last year's winner, Galopin des Champs. I had to laugh at the start of the season when everybody wrote him off when he finished third, right back at the start of the season, in behind Fast or Slow, in the John Durkan, over 2.5. He was never going to win that. It was a seasonal reappearance, and everyone came out and said, oh, he's had a hard race in the Gold Cup last year. He won't win another race again. And I was like, well, hang on a minute. It's his first run back over a trip far too sharp for him. Let's see how the rest of the season pans out before we start crabbing him. And he's come back since, and he's thumped Fast or Slow on more than one occasion. He looks very much hard to beat, but with plenty of value down the rest of the field, is he potentially going to come up short this year, or is he going to once again prove that he's by far and away the best staying chaser, top end staying chaser around, Jack?
I think he's definitely answered his critics. Again, I agree with you. 2 mile 4 furlong is not going to be seen to his best efforts. I'm struggling to work out fast or slow because I can't catch him right. Sometimes I think, oh, he's out of his depth, but then he'll run an absolute screamer and he'll win, like he did in the John Durkan, like he did. He almost did at Cheltenham, but then he did in the Punchestown Gold Cup, and even I was aghast by that. I thought, Martin Brassel, hats off to you. But for me, I can't work out, first of all, why Willie Mullins doesn't target Galopin Des Champs at the Ladbrokes Champion Chase. I really don't know why, because, I mean, I'm not the trainer, obviously, but if I knew my lad was best at 3 miles and not 2.5 miles, I would want to put him in a race that is 3 miles. We've seen how the likes of Envoy Allen have gone to Down Royal after even one run or no runs at all and done very remarkably well. So we know how much benefit that race is, but I'm trying to I've not made too many notes on this because my view is that it's once again going to Ireland. Brave Man's Game has not been in the same level of form, but ran very well at Kempton. Hewick, I think that was just pure luck, but needless to say, fantastic ride from Gavin Sheehan. He picked off the pieces. The front two took each other on. Shishkin maybe would have won it. Not convinced by Shishkin's stamina in this. He won at Newbury in the Denman, but I'm not sure his stamina will last for this, especially up the hill. Which brings me nicely onto the only horse that I think is the absolute shrewd for this. And I actually couldn't believe that I saw 11-1 for this horse the other day. I still can't believe this happened. I think if Galopin doesn't win, for whatever reason, the only winner of the race is Jerry. Man, I was impressed with him at Down Royal. Man, I was impressed with him last at Down Royal. He's been tapped for pace, coming down the last 3 fences. He's jumped the last 2 lengths behind Envoy Allen and Conflated, and he's rallied absolutely remarkable about every single bit of that hill. Because I don't think that the pictures, when you look at Down Royal, I don't think the pictures actually show how steep that hill is. It's a good hill to get up, and he's loved every single bit of that, like he loved every single bit of that hill last year in the Brown Advisory. Yes, he didn't win, but he never stopped going up that hill. And the return to a more galloping track, because I don't think Leopardstown suited him at all. I think he loves Cheltenham, and I think he's going to relish because it's a stiffer track for stamina that plays into his strengths. I think he wins it. So for me, I'd have to say I'm trying not to say that Galopin Des Champs won't win, because if he does win, I'll look like an absolute fool. But his nearest competitor, and the one that I think is actually probably likely to win, is indeed Jerry Colomb.
Okay, and Tom, before we pass to you, I think Shishkin, on the other hand, Jack, I think he's going to love this trip. I think he's a stayer. I've always thought he's a stayer. I thought he's crying out for a longer trip, and I don't want to tempt fate yet, but I can see him in a national for the next 2 years. I can see him going to Aintree and running in it. I think he has the profile for it, being a classier horse. I think he'd go for that and actually run really well. Like yourself, though, Jack, I'm in agreement. I'm a huge fan of Jerry Colomb, as you both know. Ever since I saw him in the City Isles last year at Sandown, I just thought he was an incredible horse, agonisingly close in behind the real whacker last year. He's going to love this extra stamina test. If he can jump a bit quicker, he can be a bit slow through the air sometimes. That's my slight concern with Jerry. He gets up and over, spends too much time in the air, but he will be doing all of his best work at the finish. I do think Lahon Presse's got a nice chance in this too. I can't really rule him out each way. I think he places. Was very good in the Fleur de Lis at Lingfield when he beat Protectorat. His first run back for a long, long time was very good. had every right to sort of bomb over a trip far too short behind Pic D'Orhy last time. I think that was a lovely prep run. That'll put him at A1 for this. I think 14s, he'll stay, he'll jump, he'll travel, and I think he'll finish in the first three. I already do. Tom, coming to you now. What's your thinking for this Gold Cup?
Can't hear you, mate. Speak to the camera.
Surely my picture says it all.
On the Jerry camp, I think it's pretty safe to say, and that is their picture, of course, from Down Royal, which is just
Yeah, that is
incredible.
indeed one of, if not so far, my picture of the last 12 months. Must admit, I did a little squeal when I saw that one on the back of the camera. So much so that a security guard at Down Royal gave me the strangest look I've had in a while. But yes, I was impressed with this when he won at Down Royal because he had to beat a good stayer in Envolen, going past me because that was taken with a remote release. I'm getting a little technical, I know, but that was done with a remote release. I was a bit further up the track, and I'd got them coming over the last, and going past me, even half a furlong to the line, Envolen is still in front, and a good length and a half in front at least. And I genuinely thought that Jerry had it until it was that you could hear the commentary and you could hear them. And quite frankly, just like the first race, when it was that they'd hit the line, we had no idea who'd won. So the fact that Jerry stayed on against a horse that had already had a race, and again up a hill, it said it all. I do think that Jerry will be better on a more stamina-based track because that's exactly what I think this lad's full of. Absolutely full of stamina. Plus, he's bloody gorgeous. Really is. Absolute stunning specimen. So, if he produces jumps like that one behind me, then I think he'll be banging contention. I just hope they don't ride him like Don Poley. Because Don Poley was all about stamina. And when he was in this Gold Cup again, when Don Cossack won in 2016,
16 Don Cossack.
Yeah, I was disappointed there because I had Don Poley that day. I was disappointed slightly because I thought if they'd ridden him a bit more forward, he'd have won that. But I do think that Jerry, if he gets into a nice rhythm, he will give something to Galopan. Obviously, it's a new trip for him. It's a bit further than what he's normally been for. But we had the same things about Galopan des Champs last year, and he absolutely stayed on the best. So once again, it's an exciting blue ribboned race. There's a lot of questions involved, and if you're going to market the sport, this would be a good one to show. It's a very, very good race.
Very much so. Just quickly, with Hewick, if the ground comes up soft, he won't run. Shark Callan just said that he's basically a good ground, sort of good to soft ground horse. He won't run anything softer. So his participation is not guaranteed yet, but he will be going to Aintree in April, and perhaps have a good chance. Just quickly, one final line. John Frankham has come out and said that Korak Rambler has a good each way chance. I think he's just going to get done for toe early on in this race. He will probably stay on, perhaps might finish fifth or maybe a distant fourth, but I think with how he runs, as we saw in the Ultimate last year and the year before, he came from miles off the pace. In a handicap, you can get away with that. But as we saw with Statler and also Manila Indo last year in the Gold Cup, you cannot afford to be sort of off the pace in this because they do go pretty quick. And if you're struggling for pace early on and you get detached, there's only one way you're going, and that's probably going to be pulled up. So I can't see him having too much of an effect in this race, really. And yeah, Brave Man's Game as well. I could see him running a decent race, to be fair. I know he's not been in the best of form, but I thought his Kempton run was a step back in the right direction last time. So he doesn't get a yard beyond this trip, though. He finished basically out on his legs last year behind Galopin des Champs, didn't he? He really got up the hill and just was legless in the end and finished a distant second. But I think Paul's quite coy and quite confident that he's got him back to where he thought he was last year. So I think at 20-1, there are worse 20-1 shots. But I'm very much a Jerry Colomb fan in this, and Lahon Presse would be my each way pick in this. Now we move on to a race that it's Jack and Tom sort of area of expertise for those who are watching for the first time. It's the Fox Hunters. Jack and Tom are very hardened pointers, photographers. They love this race, and although it's got quite a small field due to a number of qualification races being missed due to the wet weather in January, February, and early March too, which is basically annoying. I think Sid Hosey tweeted that I can only imagine it was Lieutenant Rocco who might have missed the qualification race by a day due to the wet weather, which is bitterly disappointing. A small field here. There's been a recent purchase by JP McManus. Jack, I'll let you and Tom take this away. Jack, you start first. Just give us a bit more into sort of the point-to-pointing world and this race for us.
Okay, so first of all, I know there's a lot of people that won't want this race at the festival, but the one thing me and Tom keep harking about is if you're lucky enough to be given accreditation for the Cheltenham Festival and you are a photographer, please photograph this race. Yes, it's the one straight after the Cheltenham Gold Cup. That is the blue ribboned event. But this is the Cheltenham Gold Cup for amateurs. This is one of the races every year that the amateurs love to ride in. They want to win. And it just means a lot when there's actually photos of them to treasure those happy memories for the rest of their lives. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This year, there's a few horses that I wouldn't say surprised being the right word. It's namely because I'd love them to be in this race and they're just not. One of them is Regatta de Blanc of Will Biddix. The horse dead heated with another horse I'd love to have seen in this, Grace of Uenki, in the feature of Larkhill's season, the Coronation Gold Cup Mixed Open. That's over 3 miles. I'd have loved them to have both been in this race, again with the Olive Nichols Viraflay. But straight after that race, Viraflay was earmarked for the same race won by famous Claremont last year at Aintree, the Aintree Fox Hunters race over 2 mile 5. So that's where they will be heading. As a result, and like Luca just said, a lot of the runners are not going there because missing out on qualification. So it leaves us with a select field, but a few that have jumped out of myself are as follows. Django, his form is intertwined with a couple of very good British pointers in Iskander Pecos and the aforementioned Regatta de Blanc. It was actually Django was second to Regatta de Blanc by about 1.5 lengths at Taunton. And then Regatta de Blanc's gone on to dead heat with Grace of Uenki in the feature at Larkhill. Ferns Lock is in excellent form and lost, giving weight away to It's on the Line recently. It's on the Line is last year's second. It's done absolutely nothing wrong apart from falling at Aintree in the race won by famous Claremont. So a return to the normal fences at Cheltenham will be absolutely fine. Time leader of Hannah Roaches. Now, this horse looked to be, if you look at the absolute bare form, looked a bit of a monster at Hereford. However, when you actually watch the race, they were somewhat green at some of the fences and the way they ran. Even our father had a little look, myself and Tom's father had a look at the race and agreed with me that looked potentially a bit awkward, but there's absolutely no denying that Time Leader is a very talented horse and will pick up a very good prize one day. And I wouldn't be surprised if it could even be this race coming up. And I would absolutely love to have been proven to eat my words. So that's on me for that one. Premier Magic, last season's winner. Now, Luca, you will remember the prediction that myself and Tom gave 2 years ago. Would you just like to remember what happened?
Well, Jack and Tom were very keen on Premier Magic at what was, let me just check, what price did he go off in this 2 years ago? I think it was a pretty short price. It wasn't very big. 6-1 he went off, and he did not go an absolute yard. He hated it, and he was pulled up, I think, halfway down the back after the first circuit. He came back last year, I should say. We didn't give him much of a chance, did we, really, because of what happened the year before. And then I was watching the race, and he was travelling really well, and I was thinking, oh, he's going to win this. He's going to win this. And he jumped the last, and he took off up the hill and won actually really well. He's been in good form since, a couple of low-key runs since, but does he come back and win this again? Tom, I'll let you come into this as well.
Well, the thing is, being seasoned photographers we are, we do national hunt, we do flat. That's the majority of our season. But when the pointing season is on, you'll find us at as many meetings as we can get. Indeed, at that Larkhill one, We were very much honoured to be the official photographers for that one. So we were kind of hoping that a couple of them winners would come through to do this meeting, but unfortunately, no, they've got other plans. Yeah, Premier Magic. The reason we wrote him off last year is because we genuinely feared that he hated the course and that he just didn't like it. Well, it turns out that the horse just wasn't right on the day because he hosed up 12 months ago at 66 to 1. And then, as if that wasn't already good enough, he went about a month and a half later. There's the last meeting of Cheltenham season, the race night, which is the Hunter Chase meeting. If you've never been, go. It's amazing.
Brilliant.
It's like the end of season party for the point-to-point industry. Really is an absolute wonderful race, and we really hope to be there ourselves back on course if it is possible this year. We'd really hope to be. But there's the premier race of that day is the mixed open over 3-2, and well, he won that relatively easily. Normally a good horse that's been very much up in the first, if they're a British horse and they've been up in the first four in the St James's Place, the Hunters Chase at the festival, you normally find them going for it. The great Barrel of Laughs a couple of years ago. It was an absolutely brilliant day seeing him win that one. Again, I personally can't see past him. I think he's the best. What's he done? Think about what has he done wrong. If you look at the form on, for example, we'll go on to the Racing Post form here. He went to Sheriff Hutton, which, if you aren't familiar, compared to, say, Cheltenham, you think that it's been run in a cabbage patch. It's a very, very tight track. It's run on private land, but it is one heck of a good course because when they finished the run uphill, and well, he absolutely took off. He really did. Stayed on really nicely, won in nice style. Then he's gone to Brocklesby Park after that one and got the job done easy. Really, I think if he's in the same sort of race, the same sort of fitness, he's going to be one to beat. We've just got to hope that he runs like last year and not runs like 2 years ago, where it seemed he was a bit under the weather.
Okay, right. So quickly, we'll just rattle through one or two more. Billaway last time, it was an absolute, basically a great spectacle in behind It's on the Line. He came from a mile back at Nace, and you're thinking he's going to get him. He's going to get It's on the Line here. But then It's on the Line found extra. Of course, Billaway was a dramatic winner, I think, 2 years ago now.
Yep.
And he got up on the line in what was just one of the most dramatic races I've seen at Cheltenham. He was never the winner, I felt, until he got right up on the line. All the way round, never really travelled, looked outpaced. It was a magical ride from Patrick Mullins. A certain Sam Crow's found his way into this at 14s at the moment. Was Dean the Second Coming about 5 years ago? It just never materialised. He's now into what is an absolute far cry from where he once was. Could he possibly be a horse to come back and it'd be typical Sam Crow, wouldn't it? Come back and win a Fox Hunters when everyone's written him off and he's just sort of almost gone into the wilderness effectively now.
I suppose that with Sam Crow, it's a case of which Sam Crow turns up because against, I don't want to sound awful to the people who race the horses in Ireland, but given Sam Crow and what he's done, he's still a class act. So really, it's a case of if he stays this far, then he's got a chance because again, he's a gorgeous, lengthy gelding. But you do think that sometimes he might be a little bit tapped.
Okay, right. So basically, are you guys in the Premier Magic camp then for this race?
I'm actually on It's on the Line because,
okay,
namely, although Premier Magic has done nothing wrong, I absolutely cannot forgive myself for last year.
No problem. Okay, right. It's a race I've not got too much of an opinion on, to be honest, really. So it takes us into the Mares Chase. Pretty simple for me. I'll keep it pretty quick. Dino Blue for me. I can't see Allegor Devassi getting anywhere near Dino Blue. And I think Dino Blue wins quite comfortably. She's a classy mare and she's by far the best in the race.
Yeah, I'm the same. Been mixing it up in both her own sex and the boys as well. And every time she's run, I've thought to myself, she might just, pick up some pieces. And she did certainly last time out. So, yeah, Dino Blue for me, penalty kick.
And Tom, Dino Blue for you?
I'd say Riviere de Tel's a nice price at 20-1, but you don't stick a win on that one. I do feel as though the Dino Blue, if she is the horse she is, but she essentially just like Fernandez and Rashford yesterday for United, it's a penalty kick, and you'd think that they're just going to go and absolutely just walk really, and they'd be able to win the race. I don't want to sound awful to the people and the horses that she's up against, but Dino Blue. But there's something about her. There's a bit of star quality about her, and dare I say, can't wait to see her in the breeding sheds. Really, there's the quality of horse is going to come from her if she can translate that to breeding. Going to be very much a spectacle. Yes, some people don't agree with these kind of races, but it's good for the sport, good for the breeding industry, good for the bloodstock, and quite simply, I think she wins this and puts another bit of a black type to her.
I think she'd go close to the champion chase. I really think she would. I think she's that classy of a mare. I think if she ran in the champion chase, she would not be too far away at all, really. So that brings us now into the final race of the week, and is the Martin Pipe. It's one of my favourite races of the week, and I feel a lot of sympathy for the young lads in this because plenty of people have gone by the time the winner comes into this, and there's plenty of good young riders in this race who are well worth noting. Key de Bourbon's currently favourite at 4-1. Waterford Whispers is currently 13-2. I'll get stuck into my pick here. It's last year's runner-up, No Ordinary Joe. I was at Kempton last time when he ran. He was very tenderly handled. I do believe lost the front shoe at Kempton in behind Glimpse of Gold, who won that handicap hurdle for the second year in a row. No Ordinary Joe finished in behind Iroko in last year's Martin Pipe. I really thought that Luca Morgan had this race coming up the hill, but then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes Iroko to win and win pretty comfortably in the end. I just think Nicky Henderson's campaigned this horse to get him finely tuned to compete at this race again. He was in the Coral Cup. They've not declared for the Coral Cup. They've taken him out of the Coral Cup, and they've opted to come back here, which is where I think they was going to go in the first place. I'm hoping it's going to be Freddie Gordon who takes the ride, the son of Chris Gordon, who gave Annual Invictus a cracking ride in the Great Yorkshire Chase a couple of at the back end of last month. I just think he'll go one better here with Freddie's claim as well. I think Freddie's excellent value for his claim. I think he claims 5, but I think when you ride for your current retained stable, you claim an extra 3, I do believe. Could be wrong, but I think with Freddie's claim as well, I think he'll go one better in this. And Jack, where would you be looking for this in this race?
I'll be honest with you, mate. I haven't really got a viewpoint yet, mainly because I'm doing exactly the same as in a couple of other races, waiting for the declarations to see just how much other jockeys are taking off and seeing if they're well treated, etc. But the only thing I'll say at the moment is you make a very good case for no Ordinary Joe. However, Key de Bourbon looks absolutely hammered for this. Again, it's sometimes won by a horse that is of the top class. 2021's winner needs no introduction, but in case anyone has forgotten, it's Galopin Des Champs.
How was he smuggled into this? How was he smuggled into that handicap? I will never know.
No idea, but he did very well. He won. I actually fancied him that day as well. And as a result, you need to take a good look at this race in terms of who the actual quality is. And I think Key de Bourbon looks very good quality. But again, just to reiterate, I haven't really got a massive viewpoint in this at the moment.
And Tom, quickly for you, is there anything here that takes your eye in this to conclude with the festival?
Well, I just want to say one thing before it is, just to recap on what you both have said. By this point, a lot of people have left. They're all heading out into Cheltenham for the bars or heading out into the car park. But please, if you've bought a ticket, or if you're lucky enough to be photographers, media, representing the media at this one, please stay for this race. Because this is going to be the biggest moment of a young jockey's career to win the race. A conditional win in this race might take them and elevate them and get their career going. So, me and Jack would love to be photographing at the festival. We haven't had the chance to do so for a while, likes of Cheltenham and whatnot. So, if you've got the opportunity to do it, please just stay for this race as well, because there could even be a very good performance that comes through. And I quite like Better Days Ahead. Now, I've always seen this lad as a stayer. And he was unlucky last year, mainly because I thought even into April he was still running at Cheltenham. He got no run in the bumper. He had no luck in that race, and he was, I must admit, a shade disappointing for me. But he's come back, and he seems to be relishing the stamina trip. A nice win over 2-7. So I'm thinking if they can, because this causes more stamina, more basis on that. I'm thinking if a jockey takes a decent amount of weight off him and can get him nicely settled and use that stamina to boot, then potentially, he could be the one to beat.
Okay, so that will bring our festival preview to a conclusion. Just before we all go, I want to ask you guys for your nap, your next best, and your each way for the festival. I'll start first quickly. My nap for the festival is Cocoa Beach in the cross country. My next best is No Ordinary Joe in the Martin Pipe, and my each way pick is Fugitive to go well at a big price in the Ryanair. So, Jack, give us sort of your nap, next best, and each way for the festival.
Oh, now you're really asking. Say nap is going to be. So I think it's going to be very early on. I think it's going to be. I'm trying to think about one that's not an obvious one. You know what? I'm going to say nap is going to be Stay Away Faye in the Brown Advisory. The next best is going to be Tishan in the Champion Bumper. And my each way, I think this is also going to run a massive price, is going to be Balboa in the Boodles. Was 66-1. Now they've been declared they are 40s. And I still think they will get in an each way.
And Tom, to conclude and round us all off, your three.
I would probably say that my nap, looking at the everything that's going on there, my nap's going to be King of Kingsfield in the county hurdle. I know it's a shrewd move, but yeah, I do really fancy this lad. Next best, I'm going to say probably good choice in this one. I'm going to stick on the first day actually. I'm going to say Chianti Classico. I quite fancy this lad very heavily. And my each way pick would be Crambo in the Stayers. I do feel as though Crambo's got everything he needs to win a Stayers. And I would love to see Fergal O'Brien get that elusive victory because quite simply, they absolutely deserve it. They really do.
Okay,
Just
guys, that
quickly,
brings us
Luca,
to an end. Yeah,
just
go on, sorry,
quickly,
Jack.
we've done a nap, we've done an next best, we've done an each way. What is everyone's one lay?
Oh, okay, this is now where it gets interesting. My lay of the festival. I'm going to be a bit bold and I'm going to go and say Galopin Des Champs in the Gold Cup. I think it's a
Pick,
hot Gold Cup. I think he
indeed.
might just be. I don't know if he's slightly vulnerable this year. I don't know. But he'd be the one I'd be looking to take on. Out of all the hot favourites all week, I'd be looking to take him on.
Tom, what about you?
I'm going to say Gaelic Warrior.
Yeah.
In the article. I'll be honest with you, I don't understand why he's favourite. I don't understand why he's up there in them. I can understand he's ahead of the likes of Il Ete Tom on one aspect, but he threw a stinker in the day after, and I can't see him beating Il Ete Tom's on these terms. So I'm going to say Gaelic Warrior.
And I'm gonna say controversially, I'm gonna lay Ballyburn.
Ooh.
That is bold. That's very, very, very bold.
I'm just thinking 2.5 miles. Don't know. I think there's probably a couple of other horses which are more sort of nailed on for that race. So I'd lay Ballyburn.
Okay, that brings us now to an end to our Cheltenham preview. We hope everyone enjoys the festival. It should, despite what people think and what people say, there's plenty of quality going there this week. Bet responsibly, and hopefully we will find some winners.
Thank you very much, guys.
One thing I will say about is racing sometimes gets bad headlines